Today we're discussing a new study from Anthropic that, while nominally about agent autonomy, is actually much more about how people are using AI agents in practice. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. Today we are looking at a new Anthropic study on agent autonomy. It's called Measuring AI Agent Autonomy in Practice, and in many ways it ends up actually being a case study in how agent behavior is changing. After reading it, I couldn't help but feel like it was a profile of a changing market where more and more of the tasks are moving outside of coding or engineering, and more of the agentic work is being done by people who are not themselves engineers. Now, to set this up, I think it's useful to have as a comparison the most frequently discussed study on agent autonomy. That is, of course, the METR study, the chart of which I'm sure you've seen before, that measures AI's ability to complete long tasks. The metric that they created is basically a measurement of the duration of a task that AI can complete at a certain level of success. It is not, and this is something that people frequently get wrong, a direct measure of how long an AI agent can work for. Instead, it is a measure of the duration of task as it would take a human. So when, for example, GPT 5.2 High comes in at 5 hours, that's not that GPT 5.2 High took 5 hours to complete a task, it's how long that task would have taken a human. What's more, METR has two success metrics, 50% success and 80% success, neither of which would be sufficient performance for a real-world context. In other words, you're not going to keep an employee around who completes tasks at a 50% success rate. Still, I've always thought that this METR metric was really valuable. In my estimation, it doesn't matter so much whether 50% or 80% success is the core number, it's that it's consistent and applied consistently over time to different models. So ultimately, what is this trying to get at? Well, it's trying to measure agent autonomy. And so why does autonomy matter? Autonomy matters as it shapes what agents can do. The more autonomous an agent is, the greater the capability it has to complete long-duration tasks with high success rates, the wider and more complex the array of use cases that it can be valuable for. That matters on an individual level in terms of what work you can outsource to an agent, on an org level in terms of which sets of tasks or which entire functions can be agentified, and on a societal level as it has big impact when it comes to the job disruption conversation. Yet despite METR being a very valuable and oft-cited metric, indeed, last year during the height of the bubble times, people joked that this chart was keeping the entire industry on its back, as it was the one thing that suggested that there was no plateau on progress, which was maybe the chief piece of evidence that the bubblists were looking for. And yet there are, of course, limitations of their methodology. As Anthropic puts it, the METR evaluation captures what a model is capable of in an idealized setting, with no human interaction and no real-world consequences. And that, of course, is not how people actually use agents in practice. To understand how people use agents in practice, one of the best places to look is Claude Code. For all intents and purposes, I think one can argue that Claude Code is the first agent with product-market fit. In fact, many people have noted that Claude Code is better thought of not as a coding tool per se, but instead as a code-enabled general-purpose agent. And that brings us to Anthropic's study, Measuring AI Agent Autonomy in Practice. Now, although Anthropic has access to pretty unique data in this regard, there are still some challenges. First of all, there's the question of what is the definition of an agent? Since this is a constant source of debate, Anthropic decided to go with a definition that is, as they put it, conceptually grounded and operationalizable. An agent is an AI system equipped with tools that allow it to take actions. As they point out, studying the tools that agents use tells us a great deal about what they are doing in the wild. In terms of sources, they pulled from the public API as well as Claude Code. And going back to this idea of tools, for the public API data, they say, rather than attempting to infer our customers' agents' architectures, we instead perform our analysis at the level of individual tool calls. They write, this simplifying assumption allows us to make grounded, consistent observations about real-world agents, even as the context in which those agents are deployed varies significantly. The limitation, they note, is that they have to analyze actions in isolation rather than understand how those individual actions combine into a larger whole. The second source of data is Claude Code. And what makes Claude Code super valuable for this study is that because it is their own product, they can understand an entire agent workflow from start to finish. The challenge, of course, is that it doesn't have the same diversity of use cases necessarily as their API traffic. Now, one last note on the methodology. When trying to figure out how long agents actually run for without human involvement, in Claude Code, they're using turn duration. Basically, how much time elapses between when Claude starts working and when it stops. One note they make is that when it comes to the average, most Claude Code turns are very short. The median turn lasts around 45 seconds, and that's been fairly consistent over the past several months. Instead, then, they look at the signal at the very end of the long tail, basically the 99.9th percentile turn duration, with the argument being that these are the most advanced users, or at least the most advanced uses, and in that way are more likely to reveal what the end duration of the capability set really is. So looking at that 99.9th percentile turn duration, there are two really interesting phenomena over the past few months. In the period between October and January, basically from when Sonnet 4.5 launched through when Opus 4.5 launched in November, average turn duration at that percentile jumped from 25 minutes to 45 minutes. Interestingly, they note that the increase is smooth across model releases, suggesting that autonomy is not purely a function of model capability. And indeed, I think that's one of the big themes of this research, is that when we try to understand agent autonomy, we have to think beyond just model to the entire context in which a model operates, including the human interactive context. The second really interesting period in this chart is the period over the last 6 weeks or so, when there was actually a bit of a dip backwards from the peak of over 45 minutes down to something that's closer to 40. They identified two theories for why what was a previously pretty smooth curve has now leveled out and in fact gone down a little bit. The first is a shift in what projects people were using Claude Code for. The argument is basically that over the holidays, people had sort of broader range exploratory things that they were doing for their own gratification or hobbies, whereas when they came back, they had, as they put it, more tightly circumscribed work tasks. The second piece, however, is that between January and mid-February, the Claude Code user base doubled, which is obviously a phenomenon that we've been tracking closely here. A doubling like that is naturally going to bring with it a more diverse user base that's going to reshape the distribution a little bit. And indeed, maybe the most interesting thing about this study to me is not just the raw measure of capability, but the human interaction measures. A lot of this story is the difference between new users and power users. One of the interesting findings is that users at the beginning of their Claude Code journey use the full auto-approval features less than more experienced users. New users use full auto-approval roughly 20% of the time, which roughly doubles to 40% for more experienced users. Claude Code's default settings require users to manually approve each action, and so Anthropic suspects that what we're seeing is a steady accumulation of trust. At the beginning, you approve things each time, and then as you dial in your settings and you start to learn to trust the model, you give it that auto-approval more frequently. At the same time, approving actions isn't the only way that people supervise Claude Code. Users can also interrupt Claude while it's working to reorient it or give it feedback, and that kind of follows the opposite pattern. Newer users interrupt Claude around 5% of the time, while more experienced users interrupt it around 9% of the time, almost double. Now, one part of this might just be a shift in where people put the burden of oversight. If new users are approving each action before it's taken, maybe they don't need to interrupt Claude as much, whereas when those experienced users use auto-approval more liberally, there's more of a context for them to step in. However, there also might be a sort of learned experience here as well. They write, the higher interrupt rate may also reflect active monitoring by users who have more honed instincts for when their intervention is needed, with the idea being that the new users simply don't know when to intervene as much. I think one comparison here is that if you view AI as sort of a junior employee, it earns trust over time. That's the shift from the 20% to 40% auto-approval rate. But as you get more comfortable with it, you also intervene more, checking in on the work as it's happening and reorienting to make sure you get the most out of things rather than just waiting to see the end product to judge its success in that way. Now, although these measures are about the human intervention, this is not a static number across models. In other words, model capability does impact this. Anthropic writes that from August to December of last year, as Claude Code's success rate on internal users' most challenging tasks doubled, the average number of human interventions per session decreased from 5.4 to 3.3. Basically, as the models get better, users grant Claude more autonomy and achieve better outcomes while needing to intervene less. Now, when it comes to autonomy, we're talking about an interaction set and a conversation between the model and harness, Claude Code, and the humans using that model. Human intervention is only one of the directions in which autonomy can unfold in practice. Claude, as they write, is an active participant too, stopping to ask for clarification when it's unsure how to proceed. Anthropic found that as task complexity increased, Claude Code would ask for clarification more often and more frequently than humans actually chose to interrupt it. For example, for turns where there was high goal complexity, humans interrupted Claude 7.1% of the time, while Claude asked for clarification more than double that, 16.4% of the time. That compares to minimal goal complexity, where humans interrupted 5.5% of the time, with Claude asking for clarification 6.6% of the time. In other words, the gap between how much humans intervene and how much Claude asks for clarification increases alongside the complexity of the task. However, these aren't exactly direct measures, as humans interrupt Claude and Claude interrupts itself for different reasons. The number one reason that humans interrupt Claude is to provide missing context or corrections. That's 32% of the time, about a third. 17% of the time it was because Claude was slow or hanging, with every other reason being much less frequent. In terms of when Claude stops itself, the most common reason, at a little above a third, at 35%, is to present the user with a choice between different approaches, which is interesting because that's not really a knock on its own autonomy, in the sense that it doesn't necessarily need that information to proceed, as it could theoretically just make the decision for itself, but a way to better align with humans on the upfront. Now, the one other really interesting chart is the chart of which domains agents are deployed in. As you might expect, especially given that this is anchored by Claude Code, software engineering represents around half of the tool calls overall. And although the other categories are all below 10%, they kind of read like a map of where agentic automation is likely to come next. Back office automation is at number 2 at 9.1%, followed by marketing and copywriting at 4.4, sales and CRM at 4.3, finance and accounting at 4.0. It is notable that even at this early stage, with coding and engineering tasks being the clear breakout, you're still already seeing more than 50% of tool calls. In other words, more than 50% of agentic use cases being outside of that software engineering domain. This is a pretty simple study overall, but a really valuable complement in my estimation to the METR study, as it moves away from the realm of the theoretical and into the realm of what people are actually using agents for and how they're actually interacting with them. There are a few interesting implications that people picked up on. David Hendrickson wrote, "What's most surprising from the paper is that real-world AI agents are currently given much less autonomy than they could technically handle. In other words, we had to go to the 99.9th percentile to really see what Claude could do, despite the fact that the average turn is just 45 seconds. We've talked a lot on the show about a capability overhang, and it looks like this is another example of that in practice, even with some of the most advanced tools in the space. Another interesting takeaway is about a shift in our thinking of autonomy, from purely based on model capability to this more complex view of model capability plus human interactive state. Yongri Su writes, "Autonomy is not just steps taken, it is permission, scope, and ability to change state. The other thing that people are exploring is, based on all this, what they actually want the interactive mode to look like in the future. Richie on X, for example, writes, "Need a Claude Code mode that isn't exactly dangerously skip permissions, but can skip pointless do you want to proceed questions, and at the same time doesn't nuke my entire database and family tree." Lorenzo responds, "What you want is competent autonomy. Claude can skip pointless prompts while respecting blast radius boundaries so dev stays sane and prod stays intact." Now, one thing to watch for is how much the emphasis in the next set of developments is more improved interactions or a totally different paradigm of long-duration autonomy. In a recent podcast with Lenny, OpenAI's Sherwin Wu argued, as the AI Future Brief put it, that the next leap in AI isn't just smarter models, but long-duration autonomy. While today's tools are optimized for short bursts, tomorrow's tools will be agents you dispatch for 6+ hours of independent work. Right now, as Anthropic shows, that certainly isn't how people are using these tools, but it does appear that things are evolving fast. Overall, a very valuable study and a great way to see what's happening in practice. For now, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening or watching as always, and until next time, peace